Nothing changed for me until I finally walked away from the fat loss routine that I've been repeating for years. Dieting, overworking, and watching the same 7 pounds disappear and come right back again. But what I found out next completely blindsided me. And it's probably the reason you're stuck too. For the longest time, I genuinely thought that I was doing everything right. But the problem was there were 7 mistakes that were sabotaging my results. Quietly, consistently, and completely unnoticed. And once I actually understood them, everything actually started to shift. So today, I'm gonna walk you through the 7 mistakes with honesty and zero judgment. And by the end of this video, you'll begin to understand why your results are probably stalling, what's really happening inside of your body, and how to fix it without starving yourself or torturing yourself with cardio marathons. So let's get into it. Mistake number 1, underestimating how many calories you're actually eating. Listen, I didn't know how much I was overeating until I started to actually track what I was eating. I thought I was barely eating. I thought I was eating super healthy. And I literally thought I was doing everything right. But then I realized I was accidentally eating way more calories than I actually imagined. And it wasn't obvious overeating. It was the sneaky stuff. The little bites that I was eating in between preparing meals. The spoons of peanut butter that were actually double the serving size. And the olive oil that was pouring heavier than I realized. And not to mention the restaurant meals or the takeout meals that I would actually eat that was practically served on plates the size of car tires. The nuts that I grabbed because I was super stressed, not hungry, and none of it felt like I was overeating, but it absolutely added up over time. And I didn't understand how much we underestimate our calories by 30 to 50%. And once I actually understood that, everything started to make sense. But then I became super aware of how much I was actually eating. I didn't severely restrict. I didn't starve myself. I just became aware. Listen, for me, I had to start tracking my meals for a short period of time, especially when I started my fitness journey. And this was for accuracy, not for obsession. I started to learn what a normal portion size for my body was, understand my habits, and finally saw where all my calories were coming from. And once I started eating for awareness, everything changed. My cravings calmed, and I felt a lot more in control. And fat loss actually started to show up where it never did before. Mistake number 2, overeating on the weekends. I genuinely thought I was eating good all week long, including weekends. But here's what actually was happening. Monday through Friday, I was barely eating. And by Saturday, my body was starving. Not kind of hungry, biologically desperate. And when your body is underfed all week, your brain sends signals like, eat carbs now, sugar sounds amazing right now. And that entire brunch over the weekends, yeah, that sounds amazing. This isn't you being weak. This is literally your biology trying to protect you. So when I lost control on the weekends, I was simply correcting a deficit that was pushed way too hard. And those 2 days of overeating can erase the 5 days of undereating instantly. So what I finally had to stop doing was starving myself from Monday through Friday. I ate in a slight calorie deficit throughout the week. And when my body felt properly fueled, weekends naturally calmed down. No more binge and restrict cycle. No more starting over every single Monday. Just consistent, boring, powerful progress. Mistake number 3, relying on willpower instead of an actual structure. Listen, relying on willpower is a terrible strategy. I literally overate because I lacked boundaries. My kitchen was chaotic. It was stacked with chips, chocolates, cookies, muffins, frozen pizzas, ice cream. And my schedule was chaotic. My stress was super high. And my environment was simply not supporting the version of myself that I wanted to become. Listen, willpower is going to drain very fast, especially for women juggling work, stress, kids, hormones, and exhaustion. And when you're overwhelmed, your brain will always choose the easiest food, not the healthiest one. You're doing punishing cardio, hit marathons, random influencer workouts, light weights, endless reps, and you just feel stuck. Because the truth is, structure and boundaries are going to change your consistency. So I started creating structure and boundaries. I had a set breakfast, I set protein targets, I planned snacks, I actually planned my workouts instead of going into the gym and randomly hopping from machine to machine. And I made sure that my trigger foods were not sitting on the counter. and staring at me. I also made sure that my workout plan made me stronger and not just tired. And once I had the structure and the boundaries, I didn't need my willpower anymore. My habits simply just did the work for me. Mistake number 4, training like a cardio bunny. Listen, I spent years thinking that excessively sweating is what I needed to do to lose fat. So I would hop on the elliptical, then I'd go on the bike, then I'd go on the treadmill and end off with some rowing. Like I was training for the Olympics. And I wondered why my body never changed. I wasn't tighter, I wasn't leaner. I definitely was not more defined. And that is when I started realizing that I needed to include some strength training into my routine. To be clear, I didn't quit cardio. I just stopped using it as my main tool. And I focused on progressive overload, lifting heavier over time. 3 to 4 sessions per week. The big movements that actually built muscle. And once I actually started building muscle, my entire transformation started to take off. Number 5, drinking my calories without even realizing it. Now this one embarrassed me because I felt it was so obvious once I actually saw it. I didn't even realize that I was drinking hundreds of calories over the course of the day. Not because I was careless, but I didn't consider drinks as actual food. Like my oat milk vanilla latte could have ranged from 350 to 450 calories. And my smoothies felt like full meals pretending to be snacks. And it all added up so quickly. For me, I simply just cut it out and started drinking water except for vacations. But for you, you don't have to deprive yourself. You can just swap out for smarter choices like sugar-free syrups, half portions of milk, cold brew with a splash of cream, and by adding in protein smoothies. Once I stopped drinking so many calories, my daily intake naturally dropped without any sense of actual restriction. Number 6, having that all or nothing mindset spiral. Listen, this mistake actually almost broke me. I was a little too consistent until I wasn't. So my week looked like this. Monday, perfect. Tuesday, perfect. Wednesday, one slip. Thursday, guilt. Friday, I'm done. Saturday, completely overate. By Sunday, I was in that shame cycle. And then Monday, of course, you gotta start over. You gotta start over fresh. Now, it wasn't the treat that ruined my progress. It was the belief that one mistake ruined the entire week. And that perfectionism was the hidden enemy. And it's one of the biggest predictors of diet failure. So I needed to adopt something called flexible consistency. Instead of quitting when I felt like I made a mistake, I simply just adjusted. And I simply kept it moving. I didn't start over. I continued the plan, even if it was imperfect. And that mindset changed everything for me. Mistake number 7, dropping calories way too fast. You start to starve. You're not eating enough calories to reach your goals. Then you start craving anything and everything. And then you completely crash. And this is the cycle. This was the cycle that nearly destroyed my metabolism. I used to wake up on Mondays thinking, I'm gonna go super hard this Monday. By Wednesday, you feel unstoppable. By Thursday, I'm thinking about food non-stop because I was starving. And by Friday, I completely broke. By Saturday, I ate everything in sight. And Sunday, I simply hated myself for it. And by Monday, I swore that I was gonna try harder again. When you slash your calories too low, your metabolism is going to slow down. Your thyroid output is going to decrease. Your hunger hormones are going to spike like crazy. Cravings are going to intensify. Your stress is going to rise and your mood is going to drop significantly. And then those energy crashes. And then you retain that water which masks fat loss anyways. Now, many women are super sensitive to excessive calorie dips. And I realized that I just needed a slight calorie deficit. More protein, more strength training. As an increase in the amount of steps that I was taking and letting my body adapt gradually. Slow works, boring works, but sustainable works too. And bonus, mistake number 8, expecting fast results and quitting way too early. So many women quit at the exact phase that they're actually starting to see progress. The first few weeks might look a little quiet, but your body is definitely changing on the inside. Your hormone is balancing, your inflammation is reducing, you're sleeping better, digestive repair is happening, muscle adaptation, and water regulation. But the scale, it might not move that much. And because you can't see the change yet, you assume that nothing is actually happening. So you quit right before the breakthrough. What I did, it was stop relying on the scale alone, especially to check for progress. I tracked my photos instead. I did measurements. I tracked my strength, my energy levels, digestion, cravings, my mood, and my body was actually changing internally. Once you start tracking your progress correctly, you realize that your body is actually shifting. You just have to stay long enough to actually see it. So tell me in the comments which mistake hit you the hardest. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss another video. And I'll see you in the next one.